Hello, you're listening to another episode of Kalescope, and this is episode number 27. Today, I have a very special guest. Who are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm Richard Wilmore,
You might know
host
Richard.
of the Richard Wilmore Show, among other things.
Yeah, I was on your show actually, and that's why you're on my show now. It was last July, wasn't it?
It feels like forever ago that I was doing my show in my living room.
Yeah.
What a concept to do a show from home.
Well, that's kind of a thing people are doing now. Even like Jimmy Fallon is doing the Tonight Show from his house.
Yes, I would like everyone who's doing that to, I think at the end of their show, it should say, "Thank you, Richard Wilmore, for starting this trend."
I know.
Yeah.
But, I will say in 2006, Tom Green did start it from his living room.
True. All right, so it took me until 2016, I think.
Yeah.
So Tom and I could maybe do a show together.
Well, yeah. Actually, I was inspired by it too because he started about 2006, and I did a show called Angry Poo Live in 2006 in July, and we did 6 episodes, and we did one every week, and it was from the living room. We talked to people. We had people call in and all that, and we went on right before Tom Green on Mania TV, and so I started that then, abandoned the idea, and then started this back up in 2018. I've always wanted a radio show, so I'm living the dream.
I just did my 99th episode at the end of January. Yeah.
That's amazing. 99.
Yeah, 99. And I guess it was good timing to take a break. I was a little tired, and then all of the craziness happened, so I would have been kicked off at number 103 or some random number. I would have been kicked out of Candlelight Coffee House. So I'm excited to go back to normal life and plan a big 100th episode.
That's cool. Yeah, that Candlelight Coffee House isn't far from me, and I saw your cups there actually. I'm drinking from one today. If you're watching the video, yes, you could see I still have my I was going to drink coffee, but I drank coffee earlier and it's late, so now I'm drinking one of my favorite drinks, Madeira, or Madeira, as some people call it. It means wood in Portuguese. One of my favorite drinks. It lasts forever. It's got this amber kind of color to it. Beautiful drink. And so I thought I'd put my favorite drink with my favorite mug, spilling it, together. So I filled it up.
When people text me or message me on Facebook or tag me and stuff on Instagram using their mugs, I love coffee mugs, and that's why I decided to make them for my show and give them out. And it's funny to see the reaction everybody has. And then when they use them, I don't know why I thought they were going to walk away and throw it in the garbage.
No. I've got, it's not my favorite mug, only because of the size. I know. My Tinkerbell one is my favorite one. It's a Disney Tinkerbell one. Mm-hmm. If you've watched some of my videos, you'll see me drinking out of it, but it's only because of the size of it. It's a little bigger and rounder, and I bought it for my daughter over 10 years ago, and I ended up using it a lot more. So, yeah, she never needs that much tea or coffee. But it's funny because I don't drink coffee often, but I did today because I wanted to get a lot done. And so I have severe adult ADHD, so I don't take ADHD medication, Adderall or Vyvanse or anything. So I use coffee as to get me there halfway. And I take the supplement called Alpha Brain, which helps a little bit too.
Are you going to be up all night now?
There's nothing new about that. That's me all the time. So me being up till 7 a.m. is kind of normal these days.
Really?
Yeah. It used to be about 2, 3 a.m., but now it's 7 a.m. because of the quarantining.
And then what time do you sleep until?
3, 1, depending on if there's someone cutting grass outside my window or not, or many variables. But sometimes I'll get 4 hours of sleep here, and then 5 hours later on. So it's all, yeah.
Well, relative, I guess, as long as you're getting it in.
It is, and that's what I've discovered is that with this quarantine, I think it's day 45 or 46 for me. And, it's really time and sleep and eating schedules are kind of up in the air now. I kind of eat when I'm hungry, sleep when I'm tired.
That was my fear. So I made sure I kept a schedule and I did my things and otherwise I would be the person who, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how many Zoom meetings I've had without pants on and I'm just sitting in a shirt and underwear.
Yeah.
But my laundry has gone down. I don't do laundry as much because I'm not wearing as many clothes, but I'm still trying to like get up and do the things every day because I think a lot of people are going to be shocked when we have to go back to work and we have to set alarms and we have to do things again that I don't want to get out of that routine.
I'm with you on that. On Monday, I'm beginning my new routine where I'm writing down a list of chores and tasks. I was telling Tanvir, I got these drums. You can't really see them here, but I got an electric drum set. So I'm teaching myself about an hour and a half of drums a day. I'm doing Portuguese lessons for about 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day. I've got like this new agenda where I'm trying to block my time and be as productive as possible. I'm also doing online assessments for my job. So I'm not getting the loan I applied for, but I am getting paid about a third of what I was getting, which will pay my bills. All I have to do is take these tests online, stuff I've done and know already, but it's like basically something for my employer to prove that I'm doing something so they can get the loan so they can pay me. So I'm getting a little bit of money, but I'm not spending money either. It's just bills and food.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't figured out if I'm spending less or more. I feel like it's less, but I also feel like I'm constantly grocery shopping.
Yeah, but you're using those groceries. It's not like it's going to waste.
Right. It's not like I'm out at a bar magically spending $80 when you don't even realize.
That's what it is. You're overspending when you're eating out. Like you spend anywhere from $15, $30 on a meal, whereas you could spend half of that in a day. Even steaks, you can get a steak for like $8 and it's a really nice steak, but you'd pay $25, $30 for that out there, and you can spend time to learn how to cook. So really it's a trade-off of money and time. Yep. Now you've got the time but not the money, so you use the time to compensate in a way. It's like I'm taking time to learn to cook more.
I'm an awful cook.
Well, you should learn. That could be something.
I have no desire to learn how to cook. I think it's messy. It's boring. I just would rather. I'm not a big like eater-outer either. Like I'm not like I eat every meal I cook. It's just the same thing every day.
Yeah. So, aside from your show, Richard Wilmore Show, which you can find on YouTube, and anywhere else?
Everywhere else.
Everywhere else.
On Facebook, Instagram, all the things.
Richard Wilmore, regular spelling, both of them, show. And you have Instagram, Facebook. I'm not closing. I'm just kind of putting it out there so I can ask you. So what is the other thing you do? You do a charity. What is it you do? Explain what that is, because I don't know exactly what it was. I just remember you work in hospitals.
Yeah, so I work for a nonprofit called Hearts Need Art. We do creative arts with patients and caregivers. So we go into hospitals and we do writing classes, music lessons, bedside activities, art with patients and medical staff and their families.
So that's very nice. I'm not as I wish I could be that way. Everything I want to do for charity, there's got some sort of selfish underlying thing I want to do. Like I don't know if you've seen my rabbit costume. No. I posted my rabbit costume online a few times on Facebook and everything. But
we talked about this when you were on my show.
Maybe.
Your rabbit costume, yes.
So for Easter, I went to go to like a children's hospital in my rabbit costume and just hand out eggs, which is fine. It's what you would do. But if you see my costume, you'll see that there's something a bit dark about it. And when I do things, I'm very selfish in a way where I want to entertain myself. And no matter what situation I'm in, I have to find a way to laugh about whatever I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So I used to teach classes. I used to teach CDL classes. So on the video, on the video, these videos are from like 1994, and it would say the word retarded. And so, piggybacking off of that, I would say, so what do you do if you have a dysfunctional retarded kid on the bus? And I would kind of piggyback off of the video. Well, you can't say that. I'm like, well, the professional video said that. And so I would just see what I could get away with. Even though what I'm doing is wrong and dark and mean, it's like I have to get some sort of joy out of what I'm doing. That's all I ask. I could do anything. I can do any sort of charity event as long as I could do a little thing for myself. Just like something where I can go out laughing.
Yeah.
I could do anything.
I think charity and people giving to nonprofits is, I mean, it's what I've learned is that it is all selfish, and it's really, you're obviously giving to help someone else out, but in the end you're doing it because it makes you feel good. It
does, and you get to put your name out there too. This is my organization, my event.
Yeah, it's been really interesting learning kind of the behind the scenes stuff of running a nonprofit, or the psychology behind why people give or why people donate their time.
Yeah.
And it's made me realize how selfish it is, like that I have the job and how much I love the job because of what I get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt a little dirty back in the Harvey days. Remember Hurricane Harvey in Houston? Well, I just so happened to have those 2 weeks off from work. I just happened to have my vacation time, which I picked perfectly timed for Harvey hurricane. And so what I decided to do with that is I went to go and help. Well, I went to go to the was it the NRG stadium, and they had things where you could join a group and you could help, and then they paid for your accommodation and all that type of thing. And so I wanted to do that, so I tried to sign up, but everything was full. Everything was like completely occupied. There was no room to join. So I was like, well, I can't do that. So I post on Facebook like, hey, I want to help, but there's no room to help. You know, all these organizations are completely full to capacity because everyone was eager to want to help. And so someone said, well, why don't you just go out on your own and do it? So that same night, I was like, that's not a bad idea. So I put a Facebook group together. There we go, got it out. And it was called, I named it, what was it called? I forgot the name of my little charity organization. Humanist Fire Ants. Now, Fire Ants sounds a bit dark, but I wanted to do that for two reasons. One, there are these videos I saw about these fire ants, how they help each other. Like when they're being flooded, they kind of create a raft out of themselves, and they create this like giant like pile on the water, this raft of fire ants, and some of them at the bottom drowning, but then the rest of them, they make this big pile. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but fire ants, when they get flooded, they come together. And so I thought that was kind of poetic. But also they're fire ants, which are not like the nicest of insects. So there's a little dark undertone to my very generous charity event. And I put a small team of 9 people together. And we went and we gutted out houses. We had crowbars, and we were like, pretty much cleaning up as much as possible, taking out old smelly furniture and salvaging wine bottles that were still sealed and things like that. And people were very grateful, but it was like, I got something out of that. Like I was like, hey, look. And also that, I had people donate some money. I've raised about maybe $300. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy supplies from Home Depot and, feed everyone that was on my little team. It felt good, but it was very selfish, and I felt a bit dirty because I was like, I'm not really working that hard. And the people who lost their houses are working just as hard, and they're gaining nothing from it. No attention. It's just unfortunate for them. But I felt a bit dirty doing it. I don't know what it was. I was helping people. People were very grateful, but I felt like I'm not really doing that much.
And then you feel like you have to like justify that. Like people always, I work a lot of hours for the nonprofit, and people are always like, Richard, you work 6-7 days a week. I'm like, yeah, but I get to make art and listen to music.
Yeah.
And I don't have a tough job. I work a lot of hours, but it's not like I'm working in a factory somewhere. It's a pretty good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, I agree. It makes you feel good. You're doing something you want to do. And you get praised for it. It's amazing.
I like to be creative all day, and then people tell me how amazing I am. Woohoo!
Yeah. It makes you feel like all these celebrity assholes that donate a tiny portion of their money. Like this multimillionaire donated $10,000 to this organization. Like that's a fucking like pocket change to them, But they get the name out there, and then they get more attention and more people saying this person's good. I'm going to watch their movie. I'm going to go to their next event or their stand-up special or whatever. And they're getting that money back for sure just by putting a name out there. It's like they plant a little seed, say, I'm going to do this little thing, and look how great I am, and it's going to come back tenfold.
Yeah, and you should do this too. You should give to this organization, and then it ends up being where the people actually probably get more money out of it than what the celebrity who has $6 billion in their bank account gave.
Exactly. But I'm glad you do what you do, because it does seem very helpful. And if I was a child in a hospital, I'd rather see someone else rather than doctors at some point. And I saw there was one video you posted with Justin Timberlake actually went to the hospital, who you're a big fan of.
We had a gala one year, and there was like a rumor he was coming for his tour and that he might stop at the hospital. And so we were involved in the talk of that, because we work with adults. I don't work with kids. I work with adult patients.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So usually in pediatrics, like there's an entire staff to keep kids entertained, but you go to an adult floor in a hospital and there's nothing there. They're just sitting like little mice in cages. And that's what they're doing. They just sit there all day long. And some of our patients are there for 6-8 months at a time, not able to leave the floor, not able to get fresh air, not able to do anything. So he was coming, and then it sort of went away. And one day I was home on a Zoom meeting, actually, and I got a call from someone at the hospital because I love Justin Timberlake. And my friend Stefan called, and all he said was, "Justin's here." And he hung up, and I slammed down my computer, and I ran to the hospital, and I waited outside in the rain for 2 hours while he was in the hospital because it was on complete lockdown. And I got an 11-second video of him walking out to his car. And then he pulled up in front of me. And by that time, I spent 2 hours all alone. And then by the time he got in his car, there was a slew of nurses with me. And he pulled up to us and he rolled down his window. And some nurse screamed at him, and he started running at his car, and he quickly did up his window, and they sped off. And I'm like, that was my chance. Justin Timberlake was about to fall in love with me.
Some bitch nurse ruined it for you.
Yeah.
I like how you said it was 11 seconds. Like you've watched that video. You've copied that video to different hard drives.
Listen, it's in a safety deposit box. There's a copy of it. Like, that's
11.14 seconds. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. Cool story. Yeah. I'm glad you shared that too. I don't. Yeah, all my favorite celebrities are dead, I think. But I'll make some new ones. But coffee. I'm not drinking coffee now. But you wanted to talk about coffee? Is that just an additive, like a filler?
I've been drinking coffee since I was like 8. So there's always coffee at my house. My mom always drank it, and I always wanted to be like my mom. And so I started drinking coffee. And black coffee, nothing in it. So people usually think I'm crazy because I just drink plain black coffee. I always tell people I like coffee like I like my men, strong and black. And then I worked at, and I was like never a coffee snob. Like I just liked coffee. It was Folgers or like anything cheap. I'm not like a Starbucks person. And then I was working at Borders bookstore, and all of the managers had to be trained as baristas in the cafe. So I was trained as a barista. And that's when I became a coffee snob, because you realize what good coffee is. And so now I spend way too much money ordering coffee to be shipped to my house. And I have two different grinders, and it's kind of an obsession.
One's on your phone and one's in your kitchen?
There should be, yes. All right, I have three. Dang it.
3 grinders.
Yes, 3 grinders.
Did you know that coffee stunts your growth?
I'm the tallest one in my family.
Really? Me too, and I'm short.
So am I. I'm the tallest. Yeah, everyone else. My grandma is under 5 feet tall.
Yeah, my grandmother is probably 4'11". My dad's, I think, 5'5", 5'6". My mother's 5'1.5". My older sister's 4'11". And my brother's 5'6". So I'm 5'7". So I barely.
You're the giant.
I am, and I'm still short. And in this city, when people see my pictures or video, I talked about it in a video earlier. People think I'm tall, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna be taller." Like, why? Because I'm white, or what is it? Is it my angles? They seem disappointed, actually, and it's disappointing.
The thing I hate is like when people go, "Well, you're average." I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like,
yeah, I'm on the low end of average.
I feel short. I feel tall when I'm around my family, but in life around my friends, I feel very short.
Yeah, when I go to my hometown, I feel short. Here in San Antonio, I hit about average, a little above average. But yeah, my hometown people are tall. I'm one of the short people, but I don't know if it's the Irish in me or what, because I found out I'm 38% Irish. And I don't know if that's a stereotype, because a lot of Irish people are actually really tall.
Mm-hmm.
You look at people like Liam Neeson and I don't know who else, but yeah, a lot of Irish people I know or have known are usually over 6 feet. But I guess there's other ones in Londonderry, Ireland, Northern Ireland, where they are short.
If you could pick how tall you were, do you have like a height of what you would want to be?
Well, I really like my height, and I'll tell you why. I'd probably be about 5'9". 5'9", just to be a little bit taller. But I love. I travel a lot, and on planes, I've got lots of leg room. In hotels, the shower head's right above my head. Beds are always big enough, so I wouldn't want to be tall, because then you're disabled. Then you have to make adjustments.
Right.
So probably 5'9", because 5'7", I feel like if I just had 2 inches, I could see over some of the bookshelves and stuff a little bit better. 5'9" would be a good height, but not much taller than that, because I actually really love my height. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, so that's good that you love it. I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a really confident day, like if I'm feeling really good about myself. I don't mind my height, but I've always wanted to be over 6 feet just so I could say that I'm 6 something, because that to me is like I'm a man. Like I'm 6'3".
You know what's funny is a thing like is see online like girls like, oh, if you're not over 6 foot, I don't want to talk to you. But I've never had that problem. I've never had a problem with females. They seem to be okay with my height. It's the ones that I wouldn't care about anyway that talk about needing a guy over 6 feet. Maybe they're superficial. Maybe they're the female equivalent of the guys that like, oh, you have to be under 130 pounds. Yeah. You're not going to get quality from that. I don't know. But I've never had bad luck with female. I've gotten the girls that I've been after being 5'7", if that makes any sense. So that whole thing, like, I've never been interested in those girls anyway. The ones that are like 6 feet or above, or I don't want to talk to you or associate with you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the type of person.
Like a confidence thing, because, I think if you're shorter or average like we are and you're confident, that's not good.
It is, because I already had the cup.
All right.
I have to be cut off somewhere. Sorry, if you can't see us, you're only listening. I poured the last few drops of my Madeira.
And we're only 10 minutes into this.
I know.
But yeah, I think because you can also be super tall and then uncomfortable and awkward and not confident with that too. I think it's the same thing. Like I was just talking to a friend who's having trouble. He's trying to like gain weight and he's trying to eat. And I was like, oh, what a tough thing to have to try to gain weight. Like you poor thing. But
I know.
it's the same thing. You have struggles. Just because your goal is to be thinner doesn't mean someone else is as well. So you could still be awkward and uncomfortable with who you are if you're 7 feet tall.
Yeah, there's a guy I spoke with on a wine tour who's 7 feet tall, and he was like a celebrity, and everyone wanted to get pictures with him. Actually, if you go to my Instagram, Jordan Kale Instagram, you can see a picture if you scroll down about halfway. Tall black guy. I'm up to his elbow, and he's got his elbow resting on my head.
Did he have super long hair?
No.
Oh.
I think he was. I don't know what he did as occupation, but he had short hair, very short hair, like your hair, your length.
I was at the grocery store, and I turned around, and all of these people were following this guy throughout the grocery store, and he was taller than the freezers, like the tall freezers.
Yeah.
He was above those, and I was, of course, trying not to be weird about it, but I was trying to take photos of him, and I was watching everybody else in the store, and all of the people who worked there were running around talking to each other, and you could see everybody sort of following him throughout the store, which was kind of funny to me.
Yeah, you become a celebrity. Yeah.
I wonder if he knows that people are watching. I don't know.
I think they do. Because I talked to the guy on my wine tour about it regularly, and throughout the whole day, and I was like, do you get annoyed with people saying, oh, you're a basketball player? I'm like, I'm not even going to bother asking you that because I know that annoys the fuck out of you. And I was like, so do you have back pains? I was asking him all these questions about the disadvantages of being tall. I was telling him about, I told you about the hotels and, how he has to get on his knees to take a shower in a hotel room, or find specially made clothing, or all the disadvantages of being tall. And I was like, you should be treated like you have a disability, because it is a disability. He was on the bus, on a motor coach bus. He couldn't stand up. His head was touching the ceiling. It was he had to push his head down. He also, I was in the front of the bus. You've seen the motor coach buses, right? About 56 seaters. I don't know if you've seen the inside of one. They're pretty big. He was sitting maybe about 7 aisles behind me. And he leaned, he was trying to get my attention because we had music playing and all that. It's a party bus, And he leaned forward to touch me, to tap my shoulder. And it looked like, I don't know if you've seen Nightmare Before Christmas in 3D. Well, he reminded me of Jack Skellington. His hand was on my shoulder. His head was midway between the seat he was sitting in. And anyway, nothing looked real. His arm was really long, and his head was halfway between his seat and where I was sitting, and his foot was still where his seat was. Just the fact that he could stretch that long with his limbs freaked me out. And his head was still far away, even though he was tapping me on the shoulder. It was just something that kind of freaked me out, because I've never seen a human do that. And
I wonder what the cutoff is for a giant. There's a cutoff, I forgot what it was, where you can actually get a disability thing for your car if you're short enough.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the cutoff is the other way, where you're considered too tall.
Yeah. I would say over 7 foot. That would be my guess. 6'11" maybe.
Yeah.
Because well, you think about biblical stories and stuff when it had David and Goliath. When I was a kid, I thought it was a real giant where to me, a real giant was 30 feet tall. They squash people under their feet. But then a giant was just someone who was really tall, maybe 6'11", right?
Yeah.
So David is probably maybe 5'3". Goliath was probably assuming the story is even true, or if it's just whatever. He's probably maybe 7'1" or whatever, and that was, or maybe 6'10", because that was huge back then. The average height in the biblical times was about 5'4". People were really tiny back then. So if you were 6'10", you were a giant, especially if you had the bulkiness. You're not just tall and thin. You're proportionate, because you're going to be very strong also. So interesting, yeah. Heights.
Yeah, it's I wonder why, what the percentage is of people who are that tall, because it's not they're running around and you see them every day.
Yeah, very small percentage. Yeah, like you said, when you saw that guy at HEB, that was a rare occasion. You don't see that every day. You see that maybe once a year. Maybe I remember going to one of my stepdad's Air Force banquets, and there was an airman who is 19 years old, and he was like over 7 foot, and he was towering over everyone. Like everyone's head was at where his chest was, like where his nipples were. He was way over 7 foot tall, and he looked like a tiny little kid. His face was like a child, and he was in the Air Force. Like, why would you pick that as your occupation? So many things you could do, but good for you, And he's gonna. Oh man, just imagine all that attention. The reason why I sound like I do, because I had a really heavy English accent when I first moved here, and it was so distracting having people stop me every 10 minutes asking where I'm from. Oh, I like your accent. So I try to like blend in and start sounding more American. So now I've got this weird hybrid accent. I started pronouncing things the American way rather than saying, could you throw that in the bin? Like, throw that in the trash. I adapted because it was so distracting having people stop and ask me where I'm from, tell me about the stories, how their niece married a guy from England once upon a time, or how him and his wife went to England, 12 years ago, and they went to this place. Like, everyone wants to share their stories, and it's like, I just want to get some bread or, find the distilled water or whatever it is, And that was one of the things that I remember, like being HEB, and like my daughter was just born, and I had to find distilled water. I'm like, excuse me, where's the water? I'm sorry, what was that? The water. Do I work here? Like, where can I find the water? Like, oh, the water is going to be in this aisle. I'm like, cool. Like, oh, you have an accent. Where are you from? Like, oh, God damn it. So it's a distraction. So I can imagine being that tall, you cannot hide it. You can't hide it. You just have to, like, going out in public, you must be like, oh, fuck, let me just get this over with, Knowing that people are taking pictures of you, and you're kind of a freak in a way,
I was gonna say, you're the sideshow circus freak.
Yeah.
I remember I've worked very hard to not have a Wisconsin accent. I lived 30 years in Wisconsin. I have a horrible Midwestern, Canadian, North Dakota accent that comes out as soon as my younger brother calls me. As soon as I pick up my phone and I'm instantly talking like that. So, and the first time I ever came to Texas, when I was younger, because I have relatives who live here, people at the mall stopped us. Like, I would pay for something and they would know that we're from Wisconsin. And you're like, oh, like, I would be stopping me like, you're from Wisconsin, aren't you? Yes. Why? I can tell by the way you talk. Like, and that's an awful accent to have. At least you have a nice accent. Like, a Midwestern, northern Wisconsin accent is awful.
It's funny you say that. I can distinguish the Wisconsin accent because all of the O's are pronounced as A's.
And then there are like 7 of them in a word, though.
Yeah.
Just one of those letters that I won't say because I've been drinking, so it'll come out. But suddenly, a word that only has one O in it has 12.
Whoa. I want to hear that. I do want to hear it, though.
It's like if I were to say, like, nose, like, that's how it sounds.
Nose. It's like you sing it a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of lingers in the air. Nose. That's interesting, yeah. So I just think of, like, Wisconsin, like the O's are like a Wisconsin is Wisconsin. Yep. Yeah, I just hear, like, it drawn out and A sounding. It changes the vowel.
Very, like, nasally and, like, it's... Ugh.
What do you think it's influenced by? Because I'm very fascinated with, like, accents and dialects and how they evolve and where they come from.
It's so... I don't know. Because people in northern Wisconsin sound different than people in southern Wisconsin. Minnesota has a little, which you would pronounce it Minnesota. Yeah. But people in Minnesota have a different accent. People in Michigan are different. Like, it all, to someone who isn't from there, it all sounds the same, but you can tell all of the different dialects if you're from there.
I got you.
But I have no idea where it's all grossly from.
Well, it seems like some of it trickles down from Canada, There's a little Canadian influence there. And then, well, you look at like the East Coast states, especially the South, a lot of them are from Scotland and Ireland. If you go to like North Carolina, there's a lot of like McLeans and O'Neills and O'Malley's and all the Mucks and all the O's are there. So the hillbillies, if I remember correctly, that term came from the people in the Appalachian Mountains in that area, and Billies is like Williams, like the Williams, which are Scottish, descendants. They called them the Scottish people that lived in the hills, the hillbillies type of thing, and a lot of Irish influence. So I understand how the American accent evolved because the Scottish people have a very hard, thick accent, and the Irish people say their R's really hard, like a hard R. So I can understand how the Americans like, I'm American, hard R's that developed in the Northeast, and just the evolution of the American accent from the Northeast trickling into, say, California, completely different accents, but you can see the evolution. And as you go to different parts of United States, like you go to like Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, and then it goes into Canada, they all sound similar opposed to people from Florida, opposed to people from Texas, California, Washington. So neighboring states sound more similar than they do not. like Texas kind of bleeds into New Mexico, which goes into California, bleeding into Arizona, and then it kind of crosses over, and you can just kind of travel. And what I do, I drive motor coach buses, and I travel to different parts of Texas, and you can hear the different accents based off of the region. You can go to different parts of San Antonio, you go to the south side, and then you go over to the west side, and you have two different accents. Very subtle, but in the south side, they'll say like, it's cold in here. They don't say the L's on cold and old. They say code and ode. You go to the west side, they do say the L's, but then they sing their accent a little bit more. Like, I know, like it's more drawn out,
I was shocked. I thought like I was waiting for that southern drawl that I still don't really hear here, like that Texas, that like thick Texas accent. Where's that?
The outskirts. I think people turn it on, but I think that's closer to like Dallas.
Oh,
because I've gone to Dallas a lot, and that's where I hear it. It's like I think Dallas, in my opinion, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they kind of hold the stereotypical Texas accent. I think it's because the oil industry, businesses, people outside of Texas hear the Dallas accent a little more. Houston doesn't have much of an accent either. There's a lot of like famous comedians and actors that come from Houston, but I think we focus more on Dallas because it's like, I don't know, big business.
Yeah, that is where my relatives that do live in Texas live in Fort Worth, and so that's the accent that I was used to.
Yeah,
and it is a thicker Texas accent. So that when I moved here, and nobody had it, I was like, oh, what happened? And then I realized,
I like San Antonio for that reason. I don't want to be in a place where they have a heavy Southern accent. It puts me off.
I love accents, and I'm glad I don't have a Wisconsin accent. My goal in life is to live in Australia and get that accent.
Yeah.
But I never wanted a Texas accent because
it
doesn't sound so cute.
There's some ignorant people that think I'm Australian. They're just guessing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I can kind of understand it because it's like, I do sound a bit nasally. My voice gets really nasally at times. And it doesn't sound English, so they're like, Australian. Or if they really want to guess, they'll say New Zealand, because they know what the Australian sounds like, the Australian accent sounds like, and they're like, oh, well, he's not really Australian. So next to Australian, which I don't know about, is New Zealand. He's probably from New Zealand. But if they're really like, they have no fucking clue, they're like, oh, he's South African. And that's one of the better guesses I get is, oh, he's from South Africa. And I let them have that.
People who have probably never heard accents other than like movie accents are probably, I can see, I guess, where people would sort of put all of those together. And then you don't sound like Steve Irwin, so they're like, well, I don't know, what's my next guess?
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to, it's like process of elimination. They don't really know what the South African accent sounds like, but they know it sounds weird. And they know that I don't have an Australian or maybe not even a New Zealand accent. I don't sound like I'm from Norway. I don't sound like I'm from England. Definitely not American. Probably South African. Johannesburg. That's how they do it.
Your address. I think that's where it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it Johannesburg? Anyway. So aging parents. Do you have any of those?
I have two of those.
Me too.
Yeah. It's interesting to me to watch your parents become grandparents and that aging process. Like become my grandparents' age when I remember like my grandparents' prime, and to watch, and I don't know, I see so much of my mom or my grandma in my mother that I'm like, oh, you do age. Like I think our parents and our grandparents are sort of stuck, at least for me, in that time frame of when I like idolized them. Does that make sense?
It does. Does that scare you? Like knowing that we're all on a conveyor belt, just like waiting to get dropped off at the end, and
it's shocking to me. It is surprising, especially since I started working for Hearts Need Art. It's surprising to me that we as people have not figured out how to deal with death. Like there is literally no other way out, and everybody does it, but we don't know how to deal with it. And I think that's very interesting as people, that we just don't know how to deal with it. And it's so shocking every time someone dies.
It is.
As if we didn't know that everybody was going to die. I don't know. But it is weird to see, because when you sort of, not that my parents are in a place or old enough to like that I have to parent them, but when I have to start teaching them things, or like doing those things that you do with your grandparents where they forget, or you repeat yourself, or they tell you the same story 6 times in a row, and I'm like, what? Like, you're not that old. And then you realize, no, they are that old. Like, yeah, but also you're old.
I hope to get there too, where I'm not really there mentally, because I don't want to think about it so much. But if I'm kind of blissful in that way, where I'm repeating my stories and stuff, I feel that that's a nice way to go, because you're not thinking about death so often as you would in your younger years. I had a nightmare actually right before I text you. I woke up about 2:00, and no, it's about 12 actually. I was pretty proud of myself.
AM or PM?
PM.
Of course.
Yeah. And so I had a nightmare actually, that I had a 5-year-old sister, and she was an asshole to me. Like I my first time meeting her, because I guess, I don't know, in my dream, I guess she was either in England or somewhere else far away. And so for 5 years have gone by, and I haven't met my sister yet. I've seen her online, so I go to meet her, and then I'm handing her a toy or something, and then she grabs my hand, she sticks her fingernails into my fingers, and it hurts, and I pull my hand away. I'm like, and I'm bleeding. I'm like, she's a little asshole. And then I start thinking about like, wow, when she's like 25, I'm going to be fucking old. I'm going to be in my like late 50s, early 60s, and that's my sister, and she's only 25 or whatever. And that scared me. I was like, fuck, we're going to get old, and there's nothing we could do about it. I don't want to be in my 50s or 60s having a young sister. I don't have a 5-year-old sister, by the way, but it was just something that I thought about that was kind of scary to me. Just the fact that you could have a 5-year-old sister if that happened. I don't know why that scared me, but I guess it kind of brought me into realization that I am on this timed conveyor belt, and everyone's on this conveyor belt together. And some of these people, they're brand new. They just got onto the conveyor belt, and they've got this whole time, this whole space to use up. And they came kind of at a good time. I don't know, arguably. Maybe we were born at the best time. But that scares me a little bit. But it's also like the fact that we're all on this together is kind of comforting. But then anyone can fall off the side of it at any point.
Mm-hmm.
but we hope to be able to fall off the very end of it.
I remember when my dad was first diagnosed with cancer, I was in second grade, and I remember thinking, I want to live, my goal in life was to live until I was 45, and then I wanted to commit suicide because I wanted to outlive. This was my plan as a second grader. I thought, if I am able to outlive the time that he had, like, before, and my dad's still around, thankfully, but I just wanted to be healthy until the time he got sick. And now, when you get older, and I'm 35 now, I was like, can you imagine? That's 10 years from now. Like, when you're a second grader, 45 seems so old.
Yeah.
Like, that was so many years. Like, of course, why wouldn't I? I've had a great life at 45. And then you become those ages and you're like, oh, wait, I'm not done yet. Like, it's so weird.
It is. I think this year, especially because, not confirmed yet, but I really feel like I had COVID-19 about 6 weeks ago. And I have what I feel is asthma now. Like, late at night, like I'm breathing. Way I described it earlier to somebody was like, if you ever gone running out in the cold, I'm sure you have in Wisconsin, that feeling you get in your lungs, that stinging kind of cold feeling, that's what I get at night. I don't know if it's just the aftermath of COVID-19 or if I've developed asthma because of it. And so because of things like that, and, like I got alopecia. I talked about this on my last podcast too, but I got alopecia happening, autoimmune thing. I feel like my health is declining. I feel like things are happening that aren't normal. I'm 37. And so it kind of mortalizes me and makes me feel like, oh shit, this is all temporary. Let me do all the things I want to do. And the way I'd want to go out is if I had cancer or something and I knew it was definitely terminal, there's nothing I could do, I'd want to do exactly what I'm doing now and not work, just have the time off, pretty much tie all my loose ends, edit the videos I wanted to put out, do the podcasts I want to do, and just kind of like close out and read the books I want to read and do what I'm doing now. So I'm treating this quarantine like it's the end. Even if it isn't, I'm not looking at it as if it is the end, but if it isn't the end, cool, I got all this future. But if it is, I did all the things I wanted to do. I'm learning drums. I'm making music. I'm talking with people I want to talk to. I'm making use of this time as if it is the end, like this is the last year. But I like it. I'm not afraid. It's a nice, comforting feeling knowing that you can close out.
Yeah. I'm hoping that if things smooth out, that people do remember and realize what's important and what made them happy during all of this and how important the arts were to get everybody through this. There's been such an influx of free art online that people are just pouring it out. All of the artists are now like, here, take my stuff, be happy, tip me if you want on Venmo, but if you don't, like, just embrace this. And I want you to, and I hope that people realize how important the arts are and continue to create after all of this, and don't just go back to, damn it, I have to get up again and I have to work all day and then I have to go do the kids and blah, blah, blah. Like, I hope we kind of calm down a little bit and realize what's important.
I agree. Aren't you excited about the art that's going to come out of all of this? The music and just everything. Just people who are going to develop talents they never had before.
Yes. And I hope that the people who are used to, I feel bad for all of the comedians and all the people who are used to doing shows throughout the week and they're struggling to what do I do now? And I hope that they're all taking time. Everyone kept saying to me, Richard, this is the perfect time to bring your show back. Richard, why aren't you doing your show? And I feel like this is a great time to sort of create alone and figure it out and hibernate and really do something awesome after all of this, instead of just being out there to be out there. Like, yes. I don't want to just put out a show because it's easy to now sit at home and do that. I want to kind of reformat and figure out what works because I think everything's going to change.
Yeah. We're
doing TV shows at home. Like, network television shows are now hanging out with Ellen and people sitting in their homes. Like, how is this going to change the way we entertain people?
Exactly. I really feel that what you just said was exactly what you should be doing. Like, think of it as a reset button. Like, let me evaluate what I've done already. How can I improve it? What can I do differently? We have to do this differently on the way back. Sorry, I thought my phone was off. Sorry. I think we should evaluate what we're doing. How can we improve it? What can we do differently? We shouldn't be doing the same thing. It should have a new flair. It should have something added with it, a new angle.
Yeah, don't just do it because you can. Like, figure out how you want to do it and how you can make it the best product you can. When I first started my show, I would put it out, and every 5 seconds I would check how many views it had, and then I would check again, and then I became obsessed with like who's watching my show and how many views. And then I realized you have to make the best product you can, and if people connect with it, they will, and the people who are supposed to watch it will watch it, and it doesn't matter if 1 million people watch it or 6. You did the best you can. So I think it's one of those, like, we need to remember that it's also quality over quantity too.
Yes, I agree with that. I like having this reset. I don't know. I just feel like when it comes to comedians, like you mentioned, comedians like being frustrated, like, oh, can't get out and do this. I'm doing all my shit on Facebook. I come up with an idea and I post on Facebook and I look at the likes. I'm like, let me see if I can put that into a routine, because I haven't done comedy in a couple of years. But I'm seeing the reactions I get from some of my posts. I'll kind of like think of something on the spot, post it, look at it. Yeah, this can go. Some of the stuff hits, some of it misses. But I'm looking at reactions. I'm like, how can I put this into a routine? Pretty much all I'm doing is I'm putting little samples, and then what I can do is make a story out of it. And before you know it, by the end of this quarantine, I could have a 30-minute special.
Yeah.
So I'm making use of that. Like, it's a different way of doing it. Yeah, you're not out hustling and doing open mics and stuff, but you could find a new way of doing the same thing. And if you can't, then you shouldn't be in comedy. If you can't adapt to change, then maybe this isn't for you. If you only can do it by standing in front of a microphone on open mic night and bombing and taking those bits that didn't bomb and using that, if that's the only way you could do it, then you're not a very creative or talented person, in my opinion. That might seem a bit harsh, but like what Einstein said, was it Einstein? Yeah, it was Einstein. That intelligence isn't measured by, and I'm butchering it, by the way. It's not measured by what you could do, but it's your ability to change. And I think that's true. Like, if you can't adapt to your environment, and you're not going to be a successful comedian in the future once culture changes, because you have to adapt. You can't be take someone like Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce was great for his time, but those jokes would not work today. You have to adapt to your environment. There are some music artists that adapt. Not everyone's happy with, like, say, a band like Metallica, who is really good in the 80s, best band in the world in the 80s. Went to the 90s, experimented, tried to adapt to new music, didn't work out so well. Then they kind of brought back what they did in the 80s, in the 2000s, succeeded again, got some people's respect. Doesn't work all the time, but they stayed on the radio, they stayed making money. They're still one of the biggest bands in the world. People from the 80s that were fans of them back then aren't completely happy with them now, but they've survived. There's a lot of bands that died in the 80s and stayed there, still worshipped. Still people wearing the jackets, you know, they have a cult following, but they didn't really survive. So, I mean, it's risky, but I think adapting to change for any artist is what you have to do.
And still being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And not just changing because everyone else is changing, but change how you would change, not like jumping on the bandwagon of what everybody else is doing.
Yes, and that's a very good point, because I hate when you hear like one successful band and then you hear another 7 bands that sound exactly like them. They're little it's like I don't know. It's silly, because like you'll hear like Blink 182, right? And then from Blink 182 you get Yellow Card and Help Me Out Here. I picked the wrong genre. All the bands that sound like Blink 182.
All of those, yes.
I fell off my skateboard. I scraped my knee. Those people with the whiny voices and the 3 power chord progression guitar, all that shit. Or you get someone like Drake with his auto-tune voice, or any insert modern hip hop artist here, and it's like, it's the same rhythm, the same exact sound, and then you got another 12 artists that sound exactly like that, and they all jump. Yeah, that shit sucks as well. Be original still, but adapt to the times.
Yeah, and it's like the person who puts out a great song that everybody loves, and then nothing else on the album sounds like that, and then their second single comes out, and you're like, "What is this crap?" And then you never hear from them again.
What's that in your hand, by the way? Is that a lollipop stick?
This?
Yeah.
This is one of the things I was trying to fix my microphone with. It's some adapter cord.
I've been trying to figure out what that was.
Yes, that's what
it wasn't until the cat just showed you. A little black cat. It was a very cute cat, by the way.
No, this is Yoko, and she's like 10 or 11. And
I think I met her.
She's a horror.
When I was on your show. Anything else you want to discuss before we close?
I mean, I think we talked about a lot of randomness. I do want to say I want to call out Tanvir because Tanvir was supposed to invite me. He has that coffee shop in his house that I have walked into, but I've never been served a cup of coffee. But I've been promised multiple times, and Tanvir has been on my show, and I have not been invited yet. So
you should bring your mug and make him make you a personal cup of chai.
I mean, he has a mug, a Richard Wilmore show mug, so he should invite. I mean, not now because like social distancing.
Yeah,
just saying.
You know what? I think he should make both of us a cup of chai.
Yeah.
Individually. Like the one single cup, because I saw his video about making a cup of chai, and I think he should do that whole process twice for each one of us. We should get our own VIP chai tea making. He boils it and everything. It takes about 10 minutes. Yeah. He makes it and then spend another 10 minutes on the next one of us. You get first dibs since it was your idea.
And then we should film it, obviously, because nothing gets done with us without being filmed. But
yeah.
I don't see why that's a problem.
And then we should not leave for like hours.
I mean, he has a nice house. Have you been in his house?
I haven't.
It's a nice house. So I'll stay. It's nicer than my apartment.
Well, cool. All right. And then whenever this is all over with, well, here it's Friday, tomorrow, right? Or no, Friday. I don't know what date it is anymore. Today's Wednesday. Yes. So Friday is when the ban is pretty much lifted and we can go back to normalcy, at least at 25%. I'm not for it, but it won't be illegal for us to hang out. So
it's interesting the things that are opening too, because not everything's opening, which is odd at 25%. It's just like random little things. Like, well, why can't I go get a haircut, but I can go get a cheeseburger?
I know. I'm okay about not getting a haircut thing, and it seems like your hair would be easy to cut anyway. It looks like you use the number 2.
I mean, I'm fine with me not getting a haircut. I'm very lazy, so it doesn't matter to me. But
the principle,
the like concept of like what we're allowed to do and what we're not is so strange to me.
The movie theater thing seems stupid. That seems idiotic, especially when everyone has streaming services. And I mean, what movies are even coming out tomorrow or Friday? You know, like what? Who's thinking it's a good idea to let's release movies during quarantine where nobody can go out? What idiot?
I think life has been shifted to at least the fall. Like literally every movie, every album that's supposed to be coming out, everything's been pushed back. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see how why are they? Oh, I don't get the movie theater thing. That doesn't make any sense to me. But you know what? Alamo Drafthouse, Austin-based theater. They. Even though Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has said movie theaters can open back up at 25% capacity, Alamo Drafthouse has stood their ground and saying, look, even though he's allowing it, we're not going to open until we feel it's safe. I did the same thing with my party bus business. I said, the earliest we're opening is June. The next time you do a trip is June, earliest. And even then, if things don't clear up, I'm not going to do a party bus because my business is 30 to 50 people can find into a bus for 8 hours at a time. which is the worst possible thing to do right now. Masks aren't going to help.
That we have to be the guinea pigs, like, because we don't know what's happening, and we don't know, everything's an experiment because nobody knows what's about to happen. So I feel like it's just like, well, we'll see. We'll open it up, and if 25% of us get sick again, then I guess we'll figure it out.
Exactly. My thing is, I wish I could feel 100% confident that I cannot get COVID-19 again if I've had it. If there's a study that comes out so that you cannot get it, it's very, very rare you can get it, then I can't be contagious, because you're only contagious 3 days after your last fever, I found out. So you're not contagious very long. You're contagious during the incubation stage, which is that 1 to 14 days. When you have the fever, 3 days after your fever, apparently you're no longer contagious. So you're contagious for about 2 to 3 weeks having it. The first week or two, you might not even know you have it. So that's when you're spreading it the most before you show symptoms. So that's the scary thing about it, is that people are spreading it, not knowing they even have it, not showing any symptoms. But if you get it, then you should be released to go out in public again. Like, I can't get it again and I can't spread it. So, but there's no evidence showing that you cannot get it again. And they say that if you do get it a second time, it could be worse and even fatal to get it. If my lungs get fucked up any more than they have, or just as much, I'm done. I don't know if I could, I feel like I'm pretty healthy. I've gone running and stuff, and now this is the shittiest I've ever felt, with my lungs at this state they're in. I can still go on a small jog, but I've never felt this vulnerable when it comes to my breathing.
I feel like it's going to be one of those things, like, how when kids go home from school for the summer and then every kid gets sick the first week of school.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen, is most people are used to isolating and not being around people, and then they're going to open it all up and everyone's going to rush, and then we're all going to get sick again because we're not used to all the germs. And
I agree.
That's where we started, and then who knows what's going to happen.
Yep, we don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. We're already at 61,000 dead in the United States already, and I predicted in March we'd have about 21,000, and that was me aiming high.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is gonna be terrible. We're gonna have 21,000 people dead in the United States. We're at 61,000 now, and we're still in the baby stage. It's still climbing. We're gonna get 100,000, 200,000.
Why? Yeah, we haven't even peaked, and yet we're like, well, I guess we should start opening it up. Like,
it's idiotic. I think. Well, it'll be interesting, but as long as you're staying home, I'm staying home. We'll let them do the people who are in denial. The thing is, the problem with Texas is it hasn't hit hard yet. We haven't seen it hit hard yet. In San Antonio, we have, I think it's 700. Wait, how many people are dead so far? I think it's like, I can't remember how many people are dead. I think there's a lot of cases in the thousands, but I can't remember the death. I think it's under 100.
In San Antonio?
In San Antonio, I think about 60 people are dead from COVID-19.
Yeah.
So nobody cares about that. But if there was a terrorist attack and 60 people in San Antonio were dead, it would be all over the news. It would be on worldwide news.
Yep.
So it's all perspective.
Yeah.
It needs to hit harder for people to take it seriously, but it's not hitting hard, but it will hit hard, and then people will take it seriously when it's too late.
Because it isn't personal. You don't know anybody. It isn't you. It's like anything else you hear on the news. It's like school shootings. You hear it in another state. Well, okay, that's so sad. But when it happens in your state, even once something happens, when a school shooting or the church shooting in Texas, then it's like, oh my, like that's getting too close to home. I don't like that now.
Yeah.
Like, it is. It's all about perspective. It's the same thing when people started hoarding toilet paper. No one told you to go do it. No one told you how much to get, but you decided in your head how much you needed, so you went and grabbed that, and that made you feel safe. Your 4 tons of toilet paper made you feel safe, and then you were happy. So to me, it's all like what in your head makes you feel better, or in whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and HEB just lifted the the amount of toilet paper you can. They had a limit, like 1 pack per customer. Then they lifted it and like, oh, you can get as much as you want now. I guess they're good on toilet paper now. I haven't been there in a while. The last time I went there, I was able to find a pack of 4 Mexican toilet paper, which I was actually disappointed because I thought Mexican toilet paper, it looked really thick and full. It's actually really dry and hard. And I thought Mexico, they don't really flush their toilet paper in the toilet. They put it in a trash can. It's kind of known. So you thought they would have the softest, like paper towel type toilet paper. But I was kind of disappointed. I was very excited about getting the Mexican toilet paper. I should have got the H-E-B double roll.
I just realized and figured out the amazingness that is H-E-B curbside.
Yeah.
There's no reason to ever go in a grocery store. And I tweeted them about it after I spent 3 minutes grocery shopping. I pull up, they put it in your car for you. Like you don't have to do anything. And why people are walking around a grocery store is beyond me. You don't have to.
And just to clarify for the audience, not in Texas, H-E-B is a grocery store locally in most of Texas, right? Or all of Texas? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's all of Texas.
Yeah, most of Texas.
Like Dallas and everything, they have
Albertsons.
But I love them now, and I will shop there and do their curbside, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to close it out on toilet paper.
Before it gets too shitty.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. Maybe we could do a follow-up episode in about a month to see where we are and see what we predicted and see how many people. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out, that the confirmed cases numbers are stupid too, because I know at least 6 people that have had it or have it on, at least on like my direct friends and Facebook friends. Mm-hmm. And only 3 of them are confirmed cases. Myself included, that's 7 of us. Most of us, more than half of us, are not confirmed. I'm self-diagnosed. My doctor diagnosed me over the phone. I went to go and get the test. The test came back negative because I waited 2 weeks after I had my fever before I got tested. Truthfully, it was like I was partially scared of the swab test. After having it, it wasn't so bad.
Nose?
Yeah. It was painful, but it wasn't. I think the anticipation was worse than the actual thing. So I was kind of scared to do it. It's like, oh, I don't want to do it if I don't have to do it. And then I felt fine for a bit. So I hesitated in doing it. And so it came back negative. Monday, I'm supposed to go and get my blood test for the antibody test to see if I had it. So I won't have it confirmed till then. So there's a lot of people walking around unconfirmed. So those confirmed cases, the only numbers are showing. You have to think that confirmed number of cases locally is more than double the number they're showing. Because a lot of people are just either they're asymptomatic and they're getting it and getting rid of it and not even knowing about it. Or a lot of people who are asymptomatic, the only reason they find out is because they get a test just because they've been exposed to people like, you know what, actually going to get tested. They wouldn't have been tested otherwise because they're asymptomatic. They're spreading it. There's a lot of people that are asymptomatic. So those people are very dangerous. But these numbers are not accurate. They're lower than you would think. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's only 4,000 confirmed cases. Well, that could be 10,000.
I don't think we'll ever actually know.
The death rate is the only thing we can go by.
Right.
And that's going to come later.
I just heard that, I think it's Florida, that like coroners no longer have to report if it's death because of COVID.
Oh yeah.
So I think even deaths were not going to really get a real count, unless that thing that I saw was fake. But I don't think we'll ever really know.
Yeah, we just have to hope to survive it, and that's it, and hope not to kill our parents. Yep. But yeah, so I'm going to be practicing my quarantining and myself. I leave every day now. I leave to go to the park every day, but I keep my distancing about 25 feet from the nearest living thing. So I'm doing my part. I'm wearing a mask. I've been to the grocery store a total of 4 times since quarantining on Friday the 13th of March. So anyway, but I'm doing my part. You're doing your part. Let's follow up about a month from now, see where we're at, if I'm still alive, if you're still alive. And
your beard is. Yeah.
Sorry?
See how long my beard is and my hair by then, because I won't get over it.
I shaved twice already. I'm shaving and going out. Just anytime I leave the house to go to pick up supplies, I shave just because I want to eliminate getting the germs on my facial hair. And also the mask seals a little tighter too.
Yeah, I shaved right when it started. My hair, I don't really care about. I grew my hair out once to donate it, so my hair was like down to here, which is awesome. And if it gets to that point, if I'm still at home long enough to have my hair down to there, I'll cut it. But I'm very lazy, so it doesn't really matter to me.
All right. Richard Wilmore is lazy. You heard it from the man himself.
An exclusive.
All right, we'll close out this time. We'll follow up in about a month.
Great.
And probably episode 33 or whatever. We'll figure it out.
That's good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. Talk to you later, Richard.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.